Squillanti. I know many of you. I'm the director of the MFA program at Chatham. This is the first of a new summer series that the program is rolling out to keep everybody during this COVID summer kind of engaged and focused and moving forward in their work. So thank you for being part of the first class. As I said to a few of you as you were rolling in, everybody is muted. I have taken the power to unmute yourself away from you. I hold the power in my hand, but I'm generous. So if you need me, if you need to say something, all you have to do is wave or use the chat function in the bottom of the screen and say, I have a question or help or whatever it is you need, and I will be certain to unmute you so that you can do that. It may be a little tricky. We haven't tried this before, so please, thanks again for your flexibility and your patience ahead of time. So this class, in case you're wondering where you have landed, is called Reckless Restraint, a revision workshop with Joy Katz, who is the lovely person in the floral shirt and the awesome earrings up in the corner over there. I will tell you that Joy is a good friend of the Chatham MFA program. She is a good friend of the Chatham MFA program director, and so I'm delighted to have her here. I'm going to let her describe in a moment how the next hour and a half is going to sort of go forward. But first, I want to read you her very impressive bio, so you know who you're working with. Joy Katz has 3 poetry collections. Most recently, All You Do Is Perceive, with Fabulae Books from 2013. Her new manuscript, which is fantastic, is called The Color Cure, and it documents every minute of whiteness in her life. It's astonishing. She also writes nonfiction covering tennis, sentimentality, neighborhoods, babies, and other things. A past NEA and Stegner Fellow, she collaborates in the activist art collective If You Really Love Me and teaches in Carlow University's Mad Women in the Attic writing workshops for women, and I know some of you know her from there. So I am going to now zip it and pass it over to Joy. And again, if you need me, you can find me by gesturing wildly.
Okay.
Joy, over to you.
Thank you, Sheila. And thanks everyone for coming to this first of this workshop series at Chatham. Tonight's workshop, Reckless Restraint, a revision workshop. So first I want to ask you, do you have a poem or a memoir or a flash with you to revise? If you have, okay, so lay your hands on your piece that you want to revise. I see some people going, if you don't have a piece to revise, that's totally fine. You can use the prompts and free write from them. Or if you're, sitting there with your revision and you feel disenchanted with it or start to hate it as we go along, just throw it aside and you can free write too. That's an option, just to let you know. So class is going to be divided into 2 parts. Part 1 is Reckless and Part 2 is Restraint. And both parts will have the same structure. So what I'm about to do is read some Reckless works, some excerpts of Reckless work in one case, some Reckless poetry, but I tried to pick pieces that if you're working on memoir or a flash, they will work for you too. So they're pretty approachable. And what I want you to try to do after this is, or like what you actually will be doing, is writing the angriest version of your piece, the angriest possible version. And as I was pulling these texts together and rereading them to myself, I want to let you know something I noticed, which is that many of the texts I went through and that I'm going to read under the, the rubric of angry are texts by people of color. And I feel that this exposes, I'm not sure how to interpret this, but I want to talk about it for just a second because I do not want to give the impression that to write a piece that's really deeply angry, you have to be a person of color, which is not true at all. Or if you want examples of rageful writing, you should immediately turn to a writer of color because, that's a sort of specialty, and that's not true at all either. So I think that my I just was reflecting on my choices, and I just want to be transparent about that. So, any questions along those lines? All right. So have your draft handy, and I'm going to read a few texts right now. The first poem is by an Israeli poet, and it's translated from the Hebrew. It's by Roy Chiki Arad, and it's called Shirts Are So Stupid. Shirts are so stupid. DJs and coffee shops are so stupid. Jellyfish are so stupid. A mobile phone lost in a taxi is so stupid. Jeeps parked on the curb of Bograshov Street are so stupid. The newspaper I write for is so stupid. The newspaper I don't write for is so stupid. The lemon is so stupid, sitting on the straw in the heart of the empty glass. Ariel Sharon and Shimon Peres are so stupid, are Peres and Sharon. The plants are so stupid. Salad dressings are so stupid. Talking about the Holocaust is stupid. Both always get attention. Always stupid. Bearded men with earrings are so stupid, especially if they wear a pouch. My heart is so stupid. My heart is so stupid. My ring is so stupid. The same dog is so stupid. The dog so stupid. The beautiful waitress from Hungary, she's smart. Bus stations are so stupid on Saturday morning. Jellyfish are so stupid on Saturday morning. Shirts are so stupid on people's chests, on beautiful women's chests, on the chests of 37-year-old women, tourists from France, sales ladies in clothing stores, women who smoke and women who don't. Shirts are so stupid. That was translated from the Hebrew by Lisa Katz. I'm not related to Lisa Katz. The second piece I'm going to read is it's an excerpt from a Yuda 1 by Jennifer Tamayo. So as I'm reading these, don't feel like you have to understand them. I'm not reading them for you to interpret, or I'm not showing you the printed versions. I want you to just absorb them, let the sounds into yourself and the feeling of these works into yourself. That's all. It's really easy. From Yuda 1. At the airport, we all take a shot of aguardiente because we all had each other's faces. When I saw my brother, I saw my face. I saw my grandmother, I saw my face. I saw my aunt, I saw my stupid face. On the way up the mountain, I saw my face in a pile of trash. I saw my face in the mule's ass. I saw my lover, I saw my face, but it was white and weary. I saw my brother again, and there was my face, my other brother, my other face. I saw my face in the American Apparel ivory chiffon blouse I bought for this occasion. In the occasion, I saw my face. I did. I saw my face in the panqueques the next morning. My face was in the talk of death. My face was in her teeth, the pavement, etc. There was a jail cell at the Museo Nacional. I saw my face. A woman flower-cunted and cross-legged, my face and my face. Everywhere my face, like I didn't have one. Botero's asses, all my faces. I took down notes when it came to torture and the Inquisition and saw my face in the leather swing set, clavicle spike rest and eye ruptrest. Faces, I suppose, are a type of torture, to look like one, but never be one. The next text I'm going to read you is called I Am Broken by the Revolt Exploding Inside Me. And it's by Minal Hajratwala. Your rage is pomegranate spilling open on ice, is the flute's thin silver seam, is a volcano spitting rivulets of fire to wash clean these corrupt lands. Your rage is solidarity before and after and during the hashtag. Your rage is the angel of karma before and after and during the video. Your rage throbs tight in your chest against symbologies of sticks and stones and chokes that break ligament and bone. Your rage is the fulcrum of your desire. Chimarai bursting out of cages, heart sparks flying. Your rage gets shit done, and it is no joke. Your rage is the luminous gold truth of sunrise, what you sit with long enough to dissolve your fear. Your rage is a checkmate to your compromise. Your rage is heat from a magnifying glass, focused, bursting into flame. Your rage is a cool blue spotlight circling the empty stage. Your rage is the dog who won't lie down for the wrong master, fierce hen who won't be moved till her brood is hatched, moth who unbinds her cocoon and lifts her body toward light. Your rage is a lesson, and you learn it as you breathe. Your rage is this holy sword slicing through stone walls. Your rage is a sentence that says what it must, full stop. Your rage is our dream of a sweeter, brighter world. Your rage is this oar treading the sea to steer this ship, this gorgeous fucking hot mess, goddamn revolution. Just a note on the title from this piece. It's a line from Cruelty, Banamdeo Dasal, poet and founder of the Dalit Panther movement. And under recklessness, in this first part of the workshop, I'm going to read one more piece. And this doesn't fall under rage so much as recklessness. I was just reading through this book this afternoon, The Breakbeat Poets. So this is by Franny Choi. It's called Impulse Buy. Bug zapper dress, laughing teeth beacon, what's your name again dress, filled with my hips, not fables of your lips, and pulling me close and saying the word beautiful, so hot shit dress, oh, I come from the future dress, electric zinging super Christ and fuck that dress, what's that, phone number, passwords? Well, that's for me to keep and you to drool for, in which case, Mr. Pavlov bell ringer dress. Take a number and get in line dress. Neon polish, program to scoff. Bathroom fuck dress. Highball hookup, gray goose and splintered shotguns. Pow pow we die soon dress. Hair dye blue dress. Sloppy wink dress. Chlorine in the sink dress. Me without you dress. So let me navigate back so I can see your faces again. Hi. So is everyone still hearing me okay? Great, fantastic. So some of these poems and memoirish prose pieces that I just read do different things with language. I don't know what you were able to perceive or what was interesting to you or what might have stuck in your mind when I was reading, but some of these texts recklessly use long lines. I don't know if you could tell that one of the pieces I was reading had lines that were so long, I was actually running out of breath as I was reading it, and I was thinking, God, I gotta get to the end of it so that I could have a sip of water. I don't know if you could tell. But long lines, they use repetition, swears, they use verbs like slay, spill, burst, hatch, churn, kill, and prove, a lot of really active verbs. You don't need to do any of these things to write recklessly or to write the angriest possible version of your poem or flash or essay, whatever it is you're working on. For instance, I wrote, so after the 2016 election, I was so enraged. I don't know why I did this, but I've written in a journal since I was 13, so I have many volumes, but I bought a journal with black pages and I wrote in white ink on it for months. So that was a form of anger, and I really wanted to show it to you, and I now can't find it, so I'm actually kind of worried about that. Where is that journal? Anyway, so that's a form of anger too. So your revision of your piece could take many forms. It doesn't have to sound like anything that I just read. So what I want you to do, well, first I want to ask if anyone has questions about anything I just read. Okay, great. What I'd like you to do now is take a look at the draft of yours that you have in front of you. Some paragraphs, a whole poem, some stanzas, whatever it is that you're looking at. What I want you to do right now is go back in your mind to the impulse for writing it. What was it that drove it to the page? And I'm going to ask you to write the angriest, most reckless version of your piece. I'm going to ask you to write for about 5 minutes, then I'll see how you all are doing. And if you need a couple more minutes, that's totally fine. So in some cases, I mean, it might be that you are changing the original impulse of what drove you to the page and thinking about another way to get to the page that's really angry. Or it may be that you're translating what you already have on the page into anger or recklessness. You know, it's whatever is going on for you with the particular draft that you have in front of you. So if no one has any questions right now, does anybody have any questions about this? I'm about to set my timer. Sheila, is anything happening in the chat? That's the question? Okay. So go ahead and get started. And oh, don't edit what you write. Just scribble, madly write. Go, write the angriest, most reckless version of your draft right now. And I'm going to be writing too. So we are now at 5 minutes. I see a lot of people are still writing. If you would like another couple minutes, raise your hand. Okay. Okay. If you can, finish up the line you're writing. Go ahead and finish it up. If you want to keep writing while we talk and people read things, that's also fine. So what I'd like to do now is hear from you. Who would like to read some of what they just wrote? How do you want to work it, Sheila?
Okay, I'm going to unmute. Guess who? Is that a hand in the air? And please introduce yourself and go right ahead.
Hi, I'm Garth Schaefer. I am husband of Jeanette Schaefer, who is also here. I've been working on something that I call the Cinco de Mayo Clinic. I'll drink to that. The sycophantic toady went to the Mayo Clinic. He went to the Mayo Clinic without a mask. Everyone told him to wear a mask, but he didn't. Everyone told him to wear a mask, but he didn't. This is not to protect the wearer. It is to save the innocent others. This is not to protect the wearer, the stupid fucking wearer. It is to protect the innocent others who are stuck in the hospital with their corona of a different kind. The kind no one wants or wishes on others. Everyone told him to wear a mask, but he didn't. Stupid fuck. To wear a mask, you wear a mask to keep from transmitting your corona of a different kind to those who don't want it. Stupid fuck, careless act. He and his staff were called out on it, and they still said it was the right thing to do. And they don't know that it was the wrong thing to do. And there's a paper trail that shows they were told this by the clinic and their own stupid fucking doctor. Stupid fucks. Then he admitted that he was wrong not to wear the stupid fucking mask. And then he told the meat packers to not wear masks. Stupid fuck. And yet he still remains in charge of this war on a virus. Stupid fuck. And now the whole house is on lockdown because people there have a corona of a different kind. Stupid fuck. And his boss still won't wear one. Stupid fucks. And they have a doctor. Stupid fucks. Maybe the orange one will get it now too. Stupid fucks. I don't want your corona of a different kind, but I'll take a regular one, and I'll drink to that. I'll drink to that. I'll drink to those stupid fucks. May they rot in hell.
Let's see, I'm gonna click on your name. Tell me your first name again, sorry.
Garth.
Garth, I really like that. I don't know if you intended it to have a humorous effect, and I don't know why, and maybe it was ragingly inappropriate for me to want to laugh at what you were reading, but I found it to be funny. I'm not sure how you feel about that.
It's intended to both be angry and funny at the same time.
Yes, to specify.
That's why I chose the sort of pun Cinco de Mayo Clinic.
Got it.
Title.
Yeah. And yeah, I like this draft a whole lot. It makes me wonder, or I wonder a little bit about thinking back to that Roy Chickie Arad poem, Shirts Are So Stupid, and all there's a mix of like the Israeli Prime Minister Ariel Sharon and Shimon Peres. And then, so the sort of big political and small details that are also stupid. So it makes me wonder about maybe playing with bringing in some completely unrelated, obviously non-stupid thing, or like neutral things, and throwing those in and having at them and seeing what happens. Like, throwing in some more of the kitchen sink. I don't know how you feel about that, but it seems like it would be fun to play with.
It sounds like a good idea. I'll try that.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Who else would like to read?
Hi, I'm Jeanette.
Hi, Jeanette.
This is actually a poem that I wrote 20 years ago that I haven't played with in a very long time, so I specifically brought it for this workshop. So this is called The Earl King and the Schizophrenic Lover. Burnt spinach, baked in oven until black, rolled into fine tissues of paper, choking acrid smoke. My lover said the vegetable, when huffed, did not have hallucinogenic properties. There were voices scream-singing in the hall. The song would not let me hear it. My lover hums it for me. I still cannot hear it. I'm deaf to this music. This is a symphony only for him. Smear of acrylic paint, me frozen on red tiles, my back a stretched canvas, his fingertip deft carved my vertebrae with shocks of purple and blue. He said I had never been more beautiful, fucked me from behind before I could speak. Scream and flail of one who is afraid, a poisoned throng of vision and voices, delusion sweeping a wild stallion. The Earl King, god of young death, never loosened his grip as the two rode off together.
Never loosened was the word grip? It sounded like brick.
Grip.
Grip, okay. Oh, I really liked brick, actually. It surprised me, but it also, like grip, brick has the same feel as a word.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Maybe I'll throw that in there.
Yeah, I feel like this, it feels, as you were reading it, it felt hallucinogenic and kind of dreamlike, like a lucid dreaming as you were reading it.
Cool.
And you said you'd been working on it for a while, and it had that feeling of looking vividly at a past event. Is that what you were going for?
Yeah.
Yeah. What are you wondering anything about the draft? It seems like it holds together quite well.
Yeah, actually, I'm very, very pleased with this. Like, I've literally been revising this same fucking poem for 25 years.
I have one of those too. I
Yeah.
have several of those. Yeah, yeah.
And so I decided to kind of pull it out. And this is probably, honestly, the best draft of it there is.
All right, great.
So,
Throw the
yay.
I mean, if there are other words along the lines of, you know, I think you had quite a number of punchy one-syllable words. If you could grab a word that's near it, like in our vocabulary that sounds like it but is a little off, I even think that would add to the dreamlike quality. It wouldn't detract from your narrative because your narrative is really clear. And when your narrative is really, really clear, then you can go crazy with language because you're not going to mess up a reader's understanding.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to share?
So just before I say anything, I have a couple people in line in the chat, and just because since there are two screens that I have to like move between,
Yeah.
the best way to get in line is to put in your name in the chat, and then I will go just down the line. So the next person up is Apple, who is actually Julie. So I'm going to unmute you now, Julie.
Okay.
Hi.
Hi. There it is. Hi. This is just something that I was writing because I went to visit the grave of Alison Krauss on the 50th anniversary of Kent State. So I started writing something then, and so this is really kind of stream of consciousness here coming out of that, and I'm not sure where it's going or anything. So, Lawrence Ferlinghetti, where are you? Where is your voice? The voice of Tyrannus Nix, when we now have Tyrannus T45, T-Mess, not T-Rex or T-Nix, a far worse than T-Rex dinosaur that is ready to be wiped out in meteoric blasts, but somehow is not. Why was she looked at as a voice too strident? That is not how we spoke at the time, a high school friend now tells me, but I think we did. I'm astounded that we did not talk that way then, because there were voices that shouted no, voices shouted peace, voices shouted I will not die. And when cards and bras burned in blazes, or did a flag, no, and a monk, no, and a young naked girl burned by napalm, no. Now I stand at a grave, and all around me our hidden danger lurks, where gravestones have become safe zones until graveyards fill again. Stand. We should stand at Arlington on a hill, a person in black by a grave, 6 feet apart by those 6 feet under. Masks draped around stones. Why guns rather than flowers? Ferlinghetti, I need your voice, not my voice of a not yet teenager. Feeling as lost now as then. When fuckers tell me I'm too old to live, that my health is not worth their freedom, what privilege, what division of a country that has never healed, does not want to heal? I will have to live to spite. I will have to live to speak. Good night, Allison.
I noticed that your piece begins by addressing Ferlinghetti and saying, where are you? And then ends with good night, Allison. So I love that switch. Like they're both present.
Thanks. Thanks. It's kind of a rant.
I love a rant. It's one of my favorite forms.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
We have one more person.
Great.
I'm about to unmute her. There you go.
Hi, Joy. So
You like it?
I wrote a piece a while ago that was pretty lighthearted, and then when you asked us to do this angry one, I just wrote this new piece. So I'll share the new piece with you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. The new piece is called "I'm Both Parents Now." Pummeled by an avalanche of responsibilities that were never meant to be just mine. I have to feed, clothe, supervise, comfort, tolerate these two spitfire, tantrum-throwing, red-headed children. I have to wash the food, dishes, sinks, tub. I numbly do this all while missing you so terribly. And the lawn. I now have to mow the goddamn fucking lawn. It just keeps growing and growing, too long for the push mower that refuses to budge and punches me in the stomach. I just want to crawl back into not doing one single thing except missing you.
I noticed the detail of the push mower, of the mower, and really felt in myself that shove of the handle of that into your stomach. And it seems like that this draft took a turn there from an almost sorrowing voice into the goddamn, it took a kind of a swerve into the lawn.
It was like one more thing, one straw or something. Like just, yeah.
Yeah, I like the shift of mood. I can imagine it going on and taking more, it goes, from a kind of, because there are lines that are sadder and more sorrowful and quieter, and then there's the shift to the more. So I can imagine it going on and taking a few more kinks and sharp turns. I think that would be amazing if you feel like connecting it to something else or going on.
Yeah, well, thanks for the inspiration. It's a very different take on the other story, but it's talking about the same thing, the lawn.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. And I also want to say, so we're going to move now into the restraint part of the workshop. But rage isn't obviously necessarily reckless. There are poems of cold rage. There are poems that are, very, very calm on the surface. And I'm thinking of that poem by Gwendolyn Brooks, We Real Cool. I mean, there's so much emotion in that poem and so much music, and it's kind of hypnotic, but also underneath that poem is a rage, I feel, is anger, I feel. So there are many more, what I read tonight is by no means, the broadest sampling of recklessness or anger. So you can look around, for examples of that. I'm going to send out links to what I read and also some more poems and essays for you to look at for inspiration going into anger and recklessness. So now it's time for restraint. I'm going to read now some poems and some prose and little works that I feel are more quiet and still and restrained. So as you have your draft handy, think about writing your quietest, stillest version. And again, like with what I read before, don't worry about understanding these pieces or being able to analyze them or even get a sense of them. I don't want you to worry about anything. I just want you to kind of be in the stillness of them. I'm going to start with a short poem by Laura Jensen called Memory. I'm sorry, it's from the book Memory. It's called The Goodyear Blimp. Is there anyone who doesn't know what a Goodyear blimp is? I feel like, do they still exist, the blimps? They do. Okay, if anyone, yeah, okay. So it's a Zeppelin, a big airship that floats like a, okay. The Goodyear blimp. The Goodyear blimp has lost itself, has gone down peaceful in a cornfield. The grounded pilot walks out of the field. No one hurt, no one around but the blackbirds, who laughed and kept laughing. He walked down the empty road in the middle of the day. It was fine to be uninjured, to have hurt no one, to walk in the brief, sweet world of the saved. This is an excerpt from a kind of strange, beautiful novel by a guy named Max Frisch. The novel is called Man in the Holocene, and well, you'll see what this is. The 12-volume encyclopedia explains what causes lightning and distinguishes streak lightning, ball lightning, bead lightning, etc., but there is little to be learned about thunder. Yet in the course of a single night, unable to sleep, one can distinguish at least 9 types of thunder. 1, the simple thunder crack. 2, stuttering or tottering thunder. This usually comes after a lengthy silence, spreads across the whole valley, and could go on for minutes on end. 3, echo thunder. Shrill as a hammer striking on loose metal and setting up a whirring, fluttering echo, which is louder than the peal itself. 4, roll or bump thunder. Relatively unfrightening, for it is reminiscent of rolling barrels bumping against one another. 5, drum thunder. 6, hissing or gravel thunder. This begins with a hiss, like a truck tipping a load of wet gravel, and ends with a thud. 7, bowling pin thunder. Like a bowling pin that, struck by the rolling ball, cannons into the other pins and knocks them all down, this causes a confused echo throughout the valley. 8, hesitant or tittering thunder. No flash of lightning through the windows. This indicates that the storm is retreating over the mountains. 9, blast thunder, immediately following a flash of lightning through the windows. This is not like 2 hard masses colliding. On the contrary, it is like a single huge mass being blasted apart and falling to either side, breaking into countless pieces. In its wake, rain comes pouring down. Here's a poem by Langston Hughes. Garden. Strange, distorted blades of grass. Strange, distorted trees. Strange, distorted tulips on their knees. I'll read this one. So this next piece of prose piece is from a book by Renee Gladman called Calamities. And each of these chapters in this book, every single one of them begins with the same phrase, I began the day. I began the day considering the possibility that the person I am before I set my eyes upon the page I'm about to read, in this case, page 79 of Herta Miller's The Appointment, is entirely different from the person I am once I commence reading. I know this because I am not Eastern European in my real life. At least I can't get anyone to think of me this way. I can't get anyone to understand how Black people are another kind of Eastern European, especially not the Eastern Europeans. I can't get Black people to want to be anything other than Black people, which as a Black person is incredibly inspiring, but on the other hand delays the thinking that Black people are like Eastern Europeans, which could be of use when observing the state of things inside a book. That being like, I realized as I somehow went on reading Muller, following her description of her narrator's most recent summons from a suspicious government official is not the same as being another kind of. How eventful it would be for the Eastern Europeans to begin calling themselves Black, or even Black Asian. How undermining of all that is the case were I to proclaim in my bio, Renee Gladman is an Eastern European African American. The last piece I'm going to read is a short prose, is that somewhere between, on the line between prose and poetry, by Rachel Zucker, and it's called There Are Two Magics. There are two magics, he said, describing the fantasy novel he was reading as they walked the drizzled streets. She was listening and laughing and realized she'd been walking through one city or another next to this man for more than 20 years. Longer, of course, than their kids were old. Their smart alecky sons who hadn't yet met the person with whom they might walk through rain discussing ridiculous books with great sincerity and pleasure. Seriously, he said, I can't stop reading it. But when they went upstairs to the good bed in the good hotel, he did stop reading and found the place where her shoulder met her neck and touched it until her mind finally went away for a while and they became bedraggled. He went out like a light, but not even the good bed at the good hotel after good sex could put her to sleep. Not the meditation app or the long online essay about the white supremacy of conceptual poetry. She missed her dead mother and her middle-aged cousin who died the summer before. She wondered whether miles away her youngest was whimpering, her oldest awake texting, her middle son worrying. She wanted the husband to tell her the plot again, but didn't want to wake him. He lay over the covers on his back, his breath audible and regular, folded hands rising and falling, peaceful and fearless, as if she'd never once meant to harm him. As if she'd always loved this warm animal, as if this were not the same summer she'd said, if that's how you really feel, this isn't going to last. And he hadn't said anything. Anger, sadness, doubt, and disappointment was a wave that slapped them down and under. So many people had died, and life felt shorter than how long they'd been together. They had, through so many omissions and commissions, hurt and been hurt. It was that same summer, but she was alive and awake. He was asleep and alive. They were weak, but they were still there. So for this next writing prompt, first I want to point out that some of these texts that I just read to you use different techniques, and you'll have the links after the workshop. But some of them use short lines, lines with a period at the end of each line. Like in the first part of the workshop and the reckless part, there were some run-on lines, and some of these pieces use more punctuation. Some of them use past tense. Some of them use language about thinking. Some of them use negatives. For instance, in the one about the Goodyear blimp, no one hurt. And a couple of them use distance point of view. Like for instance, in this prose piece I just finished reading, it's about a marriage that's falling apart, a pretty bad situation, but there's a he and a she, and it's being described, from really pretty far away in a patient, careful description. So like it's a difficult, possibly enraging, frustrating situation. Oh my God, I'm on fire. I don't know how that happened. Fix that. But the point of view is far away and the tone is quite patient. So that's how the stillness works in that piece, which otherwise could have, there could, I imagine, be a really ragey, reckless version of that piece. So take 5 minutes and write the stillest, quietest version of your draft, starting now.
Joy, you have a question?
Yeah.
Is this supposed to be the same piece that they wrote in their last Is it supposed to be an adaptation of the Rageful or the Reckless draft?
Yes, it's a different way of writing the same piece. If you don't have any interest though in working on that same piece, feel free to either free write, use a different part of the piece, or use a different piece if what you're working on doesn't lend itself to this. I'm just trying to sit where you can see me. Okay. I was ready to. So that was the 5 minutes. Will you raise your hand if you'd like another couple minutes? All right, I see some hands. Let's go for another 2 minutes. I'll set the timer again. How's everyone doing? Finish up the line you're writing. Yeah, great. And I would love to hear your quietest, stillest version. So let's do the same thing we did before. If you could call on people, that'd be great.
The first person I'm going to offer it to is Maria. Maria, you missed last round. Would you like to share this time? So yes? And unmute you now. Okay.
Thank you. This lends itself really well. I'm actually working on a memoir that's part fiction in some places and part poetry and then part just straight prose. So one of the pieces of advice given to me, it's about grief, was to lose the anger. But there are parts of it that have some anger. So if it's okay with you, I kind of want to pick up from part of it being the angry part. And because I'm just reworking some Jacqueline Woodson style prose, or I'm sorry, poetry that's supposed to tell the story, but this is giving me some ways to do it better. Okay. So, nothing uppity here like the chalk walk, boho chic, ghosted market streets. Once the slaves and freemen cowered here, expecting to step off to let the clapping horses bite the bit and stop, and the rich white gents stabilized hooped up bells, tottering and heaving against their collapsed lungs. Here is where we go when we go to Frederick. We stroll with the white people with dogs. Here is where my white family is proud to call gorgeous. This is why my white family proudly migrated. Here is where my white family brought royal houses to the up and coming. Here is where my white family works with the addicts. Here is where my white family raises their multicultural kids. Here is where my white family teaches in low-income schools. Here is where my white family feels safe, tottering up and down the streets. My white family tolerates the cancer child moving into the hood, but only for a minute. My white family will do anything to end and the mingling of its space with the brown poor space, because we've done our time in the gutter in the trailer courts of poor white trash in need of food donations and garage sale clothes and dowdy furniture. My white dad and mom exemplified how to reach down and grab a pair, reach to your knees and pull yourself up, build your way out of shared spaces with darkness. But cancer in our soul is like cancer in the colon, breast, lung, pancreas, or just excrement. And then I went to the quiet. Hustle, the couch that a cow gave its life for. Hustle the desk in that room. This bookshelf to be dusted and repopulated. Set out the books to arrange by height, title, style, stack the coffee mugs on clean shelf liner, pile the porcelain bowls with the gentlest clatter. The cancer girl's head hurts. Stop asking how to organize the pantry. Let her lie down in the bottom bunk of the darkest room with the fan hushing her to sleep. Take the kids to the cousins. Remove rain-soaked shoes and sweatshirts at the door. Line the shoes out of the men's way as they heave the final heavy objects. Women's work just begun, as if we women hadn't hefted our share. Fold the washcloths, rest the pots, stack the pans, count the quiet whispers like stairs. While the men order pizzas and pop the beers, stand arms crossed at the clever work. How annoyingly satisfying moving is. Collapse the boxes, close the door, open it for stacks of pizza, off of which we'll pick the mushrooms. Cancer sister sleeps for hours while we beautify the ugly whiteness of low-income housing.
I really, really felt the difference between those two sections, those two parts of the prompt. I mean, I don't know what it looks like on the page, but in my mind, the second one has shorter lines and reads much more slowly. So that contrast was super, super clear to me. It all feels very rich. You know, there's a lot going on. Where are you in this project? Are you, or is it part of a longer piece, or it's?
This is the center. I'm rewriting a lot of pieces that I've used over the years, and part of my master's thesis is being completely rewritten. Okay. And this is a new piece I'm adding into a mostly completed book.
Ah, okay, okay. Wow, really, really interesting. I think the form is working. And I do think I mean, you mentioned grief, and I didn't, anyway, you mentioned grief, and grief has so many aspects to it. It's so infinite, and it's one thing one day, and it's another thing the next day, and it has rage in it, and it has silences in it. It has, so I think you can avail yourself of all, you know, every aspect of grief. And so I will be the person in your head who says, have it all, have the rage and the silence and whatever else, and the absurdity. Sometimes you laugh, and sometimes it disappears, and then sometimes it runs you over with a truck the next morning. So I think you can have all of it. If I mean, I've only heard a tiny bit of this piece, but I got the sense that there's heavy irony working in the first section. Does that make sense? Does that around, this is my white family, and the repetition of it, like, so it was actually doing the opposite of valorizing this family. Am I reading it correctly?
Yeah. So when I put this in, this will be a struggle to put in. It might end up in another set of pieces. It was a great exercise. The first piece that I have is the first edition of this that I'm revising from is much more pacified, simply because one doesn't want to just peeve one's family writing about one's sister.
That's a whole nother workshop. Coming in the fall, maybe. Yeah. Okay, well, I know other folks want to share. Thank you, Maria.
Thanks.
All right, this is a brand new piece that I just started today. So this is the Restraint version of what I wrote for the Recklessness version. It is night outside. My apartment is lit by streetlights. The whir of the elevator buzzes outside my door. Each night, as I lay down, I listen. Each night, like clockwork, I hear them. Pop, pop, pop. For a time, I thought of fireworks, of celebration. But the longer I lived in Baltimore, I knew what these sounds were and what they left behind. Tears, blood, caskets, and the streetlights pour in and the sounds pour in. And I tried to sleep while knowing.
And did you say that this was the
Restraint version.
Oh, okay, good. I wanted to make sure I was hearing, because I thought this is very restrained. So good. I'm glad I got that right. Yeah. Is this looking back to a memory of Baltimore?
Yes.
Or are you in Baltimore now? Okay.
Yes, it's from, I don't think I could have written this while I was still living there.
Ah, okay. Interesting. And it seems like the beginning of something. I think the form of restraint is really clear. And is this a new piece or one you're revising?
This is new.
Oh, okay. I'm very interested to know what your position in this story is, like what your relationship to the violence or the gunfire, like where is your body, and how does it move through the day? And so I'm so interested. I hope you will keep working on it.
Yes.
Great.
Okay, so now here's the quiet version of the rage one I just wrote.
Okay.
The title is Taking on One of My Late Husband's Responsibilities, Mowing the Lawn. I was inside my head, problem solving how to get the lawn mowed, stuck on the idea of getting a goat. A goat as a pet, a goat as a lawn mowing pet. I was trying to tackle one of many responsibilities and turn it into a pleasure, and one that required very little effort on my part. But really, do living things ever require very little effort? But I'd gotten myself excited. The $50 goat on Craigslist had made it feel possible, and I had reserved 23 books on goat care from the library and called Pittsburgh zoning office to see if a goat would be allowed in Garfield. But as the 23 books started to arrive, I read things that complicated the situation, the main one being that goats don't like eating grass and will only do so as a last resort. So darn, no lawn mowing goat for me.
I absolutely love this. I want it to go on, and with excerpts from the 23, maybe not all 23 books, or maybe all 23 books. I mean, because to me, the sadness of the missingness from which I perceived in the other version, in the angry version, that I'm missing. So I'm sort of bringing that over in my mind to this. There's something so sad about this whole idea of the goat and the way that you have phrased it and the way you have structured the sentences. And I think if you brought in, I think you get to darn too quickly. So go on. I would love to read this piece with every obscure detail about goat care, zoning, because there in that list of things, there's a lot of sadness without even bringing up sadness or loneliness. It feels sad and lonely. Anyway, that's how it did for me.
Thank you.
Nobody else has identified themselves in the chat.
Ooh,
No other sharing people? I can't believe that.
I can't believe it either.
You're not going to wave your hand at me? Oh, wait, we got one. Cedric! Here we go.
Hello.
Hello, Cedric.
So yeah, this is my quiet one. This is a poem that I've been so this is some things that I write, when I revise, I just rewrite them whole cloth, and this is
yeah,
one of those things. Yeah, you do that too.
I totally do that. My slate revision is like it's just a new idea.
Yeah, so I've just been looking at this poem from different angles. Heaven is a dark bloom. Heaven is a dark bloom, it's coral bells and touch-me-nots, mushrooms, spider fern. Heaven is the garden she's been walking since she left her life. The crushed smoke beneath her muddy toes, the broken vines laying down their obstinates. She's been searching for water that no one will give, but it doesn't matter. She knows where the river winds itself around the cliffs, where the snakes polish their lungs in bile, where the darkness multiplies in sleepless schools of fish, where no man can write his language, on blooms of paper where the belly of sorrow is slick and clean, where a heart is pumping vinegar inside the convex mouth of a clam.
Vinegar? I love it. Pumping vinegar inside the complex heart of a clam?
Convex.
The convex heart of a clam. Wow, I was so completely stunned by that vinegar at the end. I think this is a great draft. Could you do me a favor? And so it seems like the title and the first lines have the word heaven in it. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, could you reread it? Yeah, we have time. If you wouldn't mind, just as an experiment, could you reread it, but exactly as it is, but just without the word heaven? And don't worry about putting another word where heaven was, just, yeah.
Okay.
I'm just gonna listen.
Is a dark bloom, is coral bells and touch-me-nots, mushrooms, spider fern, is the garden she's been walking since she left her life, the crushed smoke beneath her muddy toes, the broken vines laying down their obstinates. She's been searching for water that no one will give, but it doesn't matter. She knows where the river winds itself around the cliffs, where the snakes polish their lungs in bile, where the darkness multiplies in sleepless schools of fish, where no man can write his language on blooms of paper, where the belly of sorrow is slick and clean, where the heart is pumping vinegar inside the convex mouth of a clam.
Wow, that is really beautiful. I don't know, how did that seem to you without heaven?
Yeah, I guess maybe it's just like the two sides of my brain, like the rational is always fighting the the irrational. And at some point in the revision process, it's kind of about like, how can I make this make sense?
Yeah. What I loved about I love, this version of what you're working on either way. But the reason I asked you to read it without heaven was because I had a hunch that it would be so clear even without it. Like, to me, it's so clear that she's a beyonder and that this is where it's taking place, that I didn't need heaven, and it left it a little more open-ended. I mean, it was super clear, the situation. It wasn't ambiguous, or it wasn't vague at all. But it left it a little more to me as to, how I think about where she is, or like where my beyonders are. That's all. That was just totally an impulse. I hope I didn't. I'm often very intrusive when I like doing things. I often say, could you just reread that without that whole line? So I'm sorry if that seemed really intrusive.
No, thank you, Joy. I appreciate it.
Okay, I think Darcy, are you interested in sharing? I'm going to unmute you. You can say yes or no.
I maybe.
Maybe.
My heart is pounding.
Oh.
I understand. Yeah.
I didn't get around to the quiet one. I spent too much time trying to find something to revise, so I just wrote something new. I hope that's okay.
That's
Um,
fine. I'm just looking at, I don't want to miss your face, and I'm scrolling through my
Oh.
screen. Let me see if I can and find you. And if you would prefer to read without the video on, that's okay. Where are you? Ah, there you are waving. Okay, yeah, it's totally up to you. We're a friendly group. I can't hear you though. It seems like she's muted.
can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm not a poet. I write fiction and fiction only, so that's where this comes from. I saw you in a subway once, not the transportation moving kind, but the processed meat and chopped salad kind, the ranch dressing BHT MSG kind, the kind where you don't want to sit on the bathroom toilet, but maybe that's the same for all subways. I saw you and you looked away, not from shame, guilt, fear, but because you wanted some Dr. Pepper. Your hand with their tree trunk fingers and dirty moons pushed the lever and out poured bubble sweet concoction. And do you know, I couldn't move, but your arm did, and your cup was probably filled, and the push lever sprang back to its place as if nothing had happened at all. Its reserves of cola already replenished by an endless supply of artificial sweet. And do you know what happened to my body when you pushed me? What happened when my arm's lever drooped and out came those sweet thoughts I kept inside, only I was not a machine and my reserves were never infinite? No, my deep down treasured hopes were limited, countable, were brought gasping to the air to be spoiled for infinite ever. Sweet went sour and bubbly turned flat, and now I'm filled with something no one wants in a cup. And I watch you to see if you see me, but you never have. Your legs are not rooted in place, and you take your purchased cup and the sandwich, which surely has too much mayo, and you leave. And this skin, something that was once mine, is now just a piece of plastic, waiting for the next fire. The end.
Oh, I sense so clearly the situation of this. I notice your like first person narration in this story, very, very clear, and that somehow you managed to draw out this moment of the soda coming out of the dispenser over like 3 or 4 lines, it seems like, and now you're behind a chat message. There we go. There you are, you're back. And I don't exactly know how you did what you did with time. Now you're behind a chat message again. Go away, chat message. Move her. How can I move her? Oh, Zoom, there you are, Darcy. I don't know how you did that with time, but I really, really like that aspect of it and how you draw out the absurd subway details, the meat, the plastic, the additives. You know, I feel like, I mean, to me this has rage and also anxiety and frustration in it. I don't know if I'm accurately getting at the emotions, but I feel them in the way the details come out. Is that what you intended?
I think so. I just wrote it.
Okay.
Wonderful. Thank you for
Yeah, that's what I got. Do you feel like it's something you're going to keep going on?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay.
It's a blurb. Maybe it'll probably show up, 2 or 3 years from now in something in very different form.
It also struck me as a funny monologue. Like, I mean, it seemed theatrical, and I could imagine it being in a play. I don't know if you ever. Well, you say you write fiction, only fiction, so I'm just going to leave it there. But.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Joy, I'm watching your time. We've got 5 minutes left. What would you like to do with that time?
Well, I'm gonna turn on my light because I feel, oh, that's horrible. Okay, I'm gonna sit here in the magic hour of goodness in my room, and ask if there are folks here who haven't said anything. So if anybody does want to, ask a question or have a question about any of the pieces I read or any burning question, I am here for you.
Just type your question into the chat.
Start asking.
You will be unmuted. I am
Yeah,
seeing.
do you want to just unmute everyone?
I could unmute everybody. Sure.
Mute people.
Let's unmute everybody. Ready? Here we go.
Bam.
Everyone talk at once, quick. No. Please stay muted unless you want to say something. Okay, now you have the power.
Yeah, you have the power.
I had a question about some of the more the quiet poems that you read,
Yeah.
the very stillness of those. Where would we be able to, I would like to look up more of those.
Yeah, I'm gonna, if Sheila, if it's okay with you, can I send you a file with all of the names and where to find these? And then is there a way to send it out to everyone who registered for the class? Yeah, I'll do that. So you can have all the links.
Oh, that would be great. And then any others that you recommend. I really liked that style, so.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I was looking at reading a piece of an essay by Kisaya Lehman that I really love called How to Slowly Kill Yourself and Others in America. That's very, very ragey and so good, but I just couldn't, so I'm going to add things in there. I just
Cool.
excerpt a piece of it that would communicate what it does in a short amount of time. So
Cool.
Another thing we could do, since this session is recorded, if those of you who are listening have suggestions, you can throw them into the chat, and then we can transcribe them and include them in a resource list at the end.
great. And once you take a look at the pieces on the page, which you haven't had a chance to do yet, you will have more ideas for how to mix it up with punctuation, line length, the kinds of verbs you want to use, playing around with point of view, to make pieces, all of those things can affect the boldness and the volume of your draft, so that you can play with the volume of what you're working on, like dials, by moving the point of view way out here or really close, or changing everything to an active verb, or changing all the verbs to ing verbs. That totally changes the feel of a piece too. And it's pretty fun to play with all of this, especially if you're stuck on a draft or if you feel like you just haven't nailed it somehow. This can really help. And if not, it could lead to new things too. So.
Any other questions?
You know what's really fun is to watch, if you're in, a gallery view like I am with many teeny, teeny, tiny rectangles, when everyone's sitting quietly, it's also moving slightly. So you can get, people are going, and with everyone moving slightly, it's really beautiful. Everyone's very, very slight.
We could all just wait, do everybody with me? Okay, there we go. Okay, last call for one more question for Joy.
Anyone want the last word?
Thank you for some suggestions in the chat. Very helpful.
Oh, great. Claudia Rankin text. Oh, great,
yeah,
great.
for sure, Claudia Rankin. Great.
Fantastic. Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight, coming to this first in the series of Chatham Summer Workshops. It was a real pleasure.
Let's unmute and thank Joy for her time tonight. And a clapping would be appropriate. If you can hear it, you can see it, right? Yeah.
Thank you,
Joy, so much.
You're so welcome.
I forgot about it.
You forgot about it, Holly. How'd you do that?
Because I don't have class brain anymore.
Oh, well, we'll remind you for the next one.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay. So listen, all of you, there are 5 more workshops coming up at least this summer. And since you are registered for this one, you are now, I don't own it, but I have your email address. So I will send you a follow-up. We're going to ask you to answer some questions in a survey about how this went. And hopefully, if you haven't already signed up for the upcoming sessions, you'll think about doing that. We have sessions on using objects in fiction with Sherry Flick. We have a session later this month on finding your agent with Danielle Ciotti, those of you who are aspiring novelists. We will have a session on tarot writing with Brittany Miller.
Poets have agents too,
What's that? That's true. Yeah, poets. Wait, what?
Save.
Anyway, I will send a reminder for everybody, and would love to see you again in this weird space. And thank you so much for coming. I hope you all write well. Enjoy the day. It's going to be beautiful tomorrow.
Okay.
Bye.